Hey guys, my name is Dr. Film, and no, I'm not qualified to be a doctor. Before we begin, you should know that this review will contain no spoilers. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe for reviews and more. And so, without further ado, let's begin our review of The Marvels.
Cast and characters.
Now before we begin, I'd just like to make things clear. I do not have anything against Brie Larson. I think what happened to her since the release of Captain Marvel was unfair. I don't think it was the actress's fault. I mean, hey, if they don't like the character, then that's fine, but don't hate Brie Larson. She was just doing her job. And so with that in mind, I think Brie Larson's character in this movie was fairly good. And the same goes for Monica Rambeau, played by Tiana Paris. They can be relatable, and they do have some good chemistry here and there, but they're not exactly my favorite, like the OG characters from the Avengers. In short, they were pretty alright. But I will say that Miss Marvel, played by Iman Vellani, is honestly my favorite character of this whole movie. She was energetic, funny, and there are moments where she can pull off an emotional performance. And it's worth mentioning that this is her first feature film role, and that's saying something. And as for our villain, Dar-Benn, played by Zawe Ashton, she was boring as heck. She has no personality, besides her genocidal tendencies. Her plans and motivations are cliches, and the film barely fleshes out this character. We don't even know why she's committing all these horrible acts. I mean, we do know what she's doing, but why though? I mean, seriously, what was the studio thinking of hyping her up from the trailers? Remember in this part of the trailer where they mentioned that she's somehow connected to Thanos for some reason?
My work is inevitable. There will always be more to finish it.
She's not. She's not connected to Thanos in any other way. She's just not. She's just a Kree who definitely needs a dentist.
Say ah! Now spit!
Visual effects and action.
Now granted, the visual effects look pretty cool at times, but there were other times where the CGI can look pretty, what's the word? Oh yeah, cheap. Especially in scenes where you see our supposedly actors flying or floating in space. But let's be real, it's just a green screen behind them. Honestly, the visual effects in this film don't look that impressive when you compare them to the CGI effects in Spider-Man 3. And that came out in 2007!
Nice.
Now granted, there are some action scenes that looked pretty great and exciting. Especially how they filmed the fight choreography between our main characters and the villain. It was pretty cool to see some of our actresses doing their own stunts. But most of the time, the action looks pretty generic and stale. Especially the spaceship battle sequence that you've seen a dozen times before in other superhero movies. Whoopity little do!
Are you okay?
I'm fine. Let's get this review over with.
The story.
Now granted, the story was a bit more mature and emotional than the first film was. And there are some themes and ideas that you can identify with, but aside from all of that, the story was a cluttered mess. The story was uninspiring, dull, it had jokes in the film that fell flat, and there are so many cliches that you've seen before, again in other superhero movies. Not even the climax was even that good. And the climax, it happened like this. Alright, let's stop the villain. We stop the villain. Now, one of us has to sacrifice ourselves. Why? Because we have to. Why? Because we're superheroes, we have to. Why? I'm gonna punch you in the face if you keep saying why. Why? That's pretty much what happens in the climax.
Are you serious?
So overall, my friends, I prefer to watch the first film than this. Don't get me wrong, there are some things you might like about this movie, like some of the action set pieces, Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel, and the cool Easter eggs and cameos that you may find in this movie. But aside from that, this movie has a generic boring villain, visual effects that are unpleasing to watch, and a standard superhero story that you've seen before in countless other superhero movies. I think one of the reasons why this movie was such a letdown was that the studio created too much hype for this movie. From the trailers to small previews, they were trying to make this movie like Infinity War or Endgame. But the truth is, it's not. Look, I'm sure you all have many opinions and ideas of what you think the MCU is like right now. But for me, I think they should just take a breath, relax, and plan what to do next. Because at this point, I'm feeling no excitement for future MCU projects whatsoever. I give the Marvels a 6.5 out of 10. Well guys, that's the end of my review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. And please follow me on Instagram for updates on my channel. And you can also follow me on TikTok for trailer reactions and more. And as always, I will see you guys at our next appointment.